Welcome to another episode of Whitetail Rendezvous, coming to you 6 days a week as we interview whitetail experts and hear their traditions and personal stories of the hunt. Learn more about the latest gear, discover proven tips, and the latest strategies so you can make your next hunt a success. Now, here's your host, Bruce Hutchin.
Whitetail Rendezvous is pleased to announce a partnership with GoHunt.com. Who's GoHunt.com? Well, if you're a DIY hunter, you need the information at GoHunt.com/insider. Why? Because it provides 4,200 profiles, every unit, every species, and every season. Furthermore, they give in-depth analysis, interactive maps, unit access, and seasonal trends. Draws are very important, and they give you the most accurate information in the business. All this is available when you go to GoHunt.com/insider. Make sure you use promo code WR when you join Insider. You'll get a $50 gift card for GoHunt.com Gear Shop. Remember, when you become a member of GoHunt.com/insider, you're going to get a $50 gift card to Go Hunt Gear Shop. What's in the gear shop? The best gear that you can buy for hunting the West. This gear's been field tested by some of the best, and they know what it can do, what it can't do. You're going to get reviews, and you're going to have a selection that is bar none right at the top of the list. Having said that, once you get your gift card, all you have to do is go to GoHunt.com and go to the first page and click on shop and go have some fun. All in all, if you're hunting out West in 2018, GoHunt.com Insider is where you need to be to get all the research information. When you use promo code WR, Whitetail Rendezvous receives a small commission from GoHunt.com. Hey, folks, welcome to another episode of Whitetail Rendezvous. This is your host, Bruce Hutchin, and I've got Tyler Preszler on the phone today, and we're going to be talking about hunting Colorado and hunting in general. And Tyler's a CRNA out of Nebraska, and Tyler's going to tell us what all those initials mean. Tyler, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Bruce. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, this is exciting, and Tyler and I met on social media, and he's got a really interesting background, and he's a young man he's got his PhD. And so what do you do?
Yeah, so I'm a certified registered nurse anesthetist. So I have my doctorate. So I have my doctorate of nursing anesthesia practice that I got down in Lincoln, Nebraska. And so I provide anesthesia for general anesthesia, as well as peripheral nerve blocks, labor epidurals, and any sort of surgical suite needs that you would need if you were entering the hospital.
Okay, so when I have my surgeries and a doctor comes in, you do the same thing as the doctor? It's basically...
It depends on the individual hospital and how they have their anesthesia needs set up. But yes, absolutely. So,
because the worst one I ever had, I had some surgery done on my hand, and they gave me a whole arm block. I did not like that because my arm was just dead weight. No, that sucked. I did not like that at all.
You know, I've never personally had a block, but I've given hundreds of them at this point in my career. And yeah, people don't tend to appreciate an arm that they can't feel.
Well, no, plus it's heavy. I mean,
yeah.
It's really heavy. You can't believe how heavy your arm is, when you have a nerve block. So we're moving on from that. And Tyler grew up in Southwestern Colorado, down by Fort Corners, and he's been hunting a long time. So tell me about your hunting heritage. Where did that come from?
Yeah. So actually, my stepfather was the first person to really get my brother and I into hunting. Pretty much as soon as he came into my life, first thing I remember is he bought my brother and I bows, and we've been shooting bows since, I guess I would have been 5 or 6 years old. So that really kind of kicked things off for me at such a young age.
Now, how far did you have to go to get into, mule deer or antelope, or for that matter, elk?
Well, my parents kind of have made a transition as far as they made a few moves. So early on, we had a few hour drive to get up into the mountains. But when I was, I think, a freshman in high school, my parents, they bought a small little ranch in very southwest corner. So it wouldn't be uncommon to wake up in the middle of the winter and have 500 head of elk right outside our window. So it was a very fun opportunity to have through my high school years. So.
Oh my goodness, were you in the oak brush or in the sage?
A mix between sage and some farmland as well, combination of the two. So.
Now, what mountains did they come out of?
So this is traditional winter range. They'd come out of the Southwest San Juans and migrate across the kind of the Dolores River area and out onto the like sagebrush flats / farmland. So.
Is it still that way today?
They've wisened up. Obviously, a few more people have moved to the area, so we still see some elk, but not near as much as we used to when we first moved out there.
So how far do these elk migrate, to give the listeners a little understanding of how far,
These elk in particular? Oh man, I couldn't tell you exactly, but I know the nearest peak that's anywhere near 10,000 feet is probably 60 miles as a crow flies. So a good ways.
And this is traditional, wintering grounds for them, and it's up to 60 miles away. So
Yeah,
folks, think about that when you're deer hunting in Wisconsin or Iowa. 60 miles from where you are is completely 2 counties over. I mean, so it's interesting, hunting, hunting elk, and for that matter, mule deer, because mule deer migrate also.
Yeah, there's fantastic mule deer out there too. Same thing. Used to have phenomenal mule deer hunting out there. It's kind of gone downhill the last probably 5 years since they've opened up a lot more doe tags. But I have a deadhead here in my corner that's 190-inch deer, non-typical. It's that I found out there. Just there's some beautiful deer out there, let me tell you.
Well, yeah. So let's talk about, okay, your uncle gave you a bow and arrow, stick and a string, and then when did you start hunting big game animals?
Oh man, I started hunting at 12. At 12, actually, believe it or not, yeah, my stepdad got me into hunting, but my first deer I ever took, I was actually with my mom, believe it or not. So that was a pretty cool experience to be able to harvest my first animal with my mom right by my side. So.
Well, yeah. Let's tell us how that happened. Tell us about the hunt.
Yeah. So this was on the ranch that I was just telling you about. I believe I was 12. I might have been 13. I can't remember. It's been a while. But yeah, we set up a small little blind in our ravine just off of our dry land fields that we have on our property. And opening morning, again, we grew up being meat hunters, so it doesn't have to be anything special. As soon as we found something that we were happy with, that we were going to pull the trigger. And opening morning, first light, small little fork and horn walked by at 110 yards, and my mom looks at me and she's like, "You want them?" "I want them," and that's the end of the story. So yeah, it's quite the experience being able to share that opportunity with my mom. So it was pretty cool.
Now, did she have you got it yourself?
So my stepdad was hunting on the property as well. So luckily he was able to come over and help with that at such a young age.
It does get a little bit messy, that's for sure.
Yeah, at that age I didn't want anything to do with it, but obviously things change, and I believe a year or two had gone by and my stepdad threw me in the mix. So
there you go. Now that was with a rifle, correct? Your first deer was with a rifle?
That was with the rifle, correct. Yep.
Now, when was your first deer or elk with your bow?
Yeah, so my first animal with the bow is actually a doe out on my parents' property. Again, I was in nursing school at the time. I came home for a quick short weekend hunt and ended up taking my first doe. Made an absolute terrible shot on her, unfortunately, but luckily I was able to find her. But yeah, it's nothing special to that story, but yeah, it's I'll be honest, I do call myself an opportunist hunter, and I prefer archery hunting, but I've only actually shot, I believe, 2 animals with a bow. That would be a cow elk and that doe mule deer. So
you got lots of time.
I plan on changing that this year. So I'm currently in the market for a bow. I've been shooting everything under the sun right now to see what I like. So,
well, there's plenty of bows. I shoot a Excalibur crossbow. I used to shoot. What the heck did I used to shoot? A PSE. Anyway, it was a while back, compound, for years and years and years. And I was fortunate to take a number of deer and elk and bear and blah, blah, blah. But it's really neat getting up close and personal, with game. And, 20 or 30 yards. And there's guys that are shooting 60 and 100 yards, and they can, and that's all good. For me, it's kind of like my rifle, probably 400, 450 yards is about as far as I'm going to shoot. Muzzle loaders, about 150 yards. That's where I'm going to shoot. And those are my limitations, not because the gear can't do any better, but, just because I figured it out that, that's where I stand the best chance of putting them down. So let's talk about when you got your first Alpine mule deer. And we over on Facebook Live, folks, you can go to Whitetail Rendezvous and listen to that. But, let's talk about, the difference of hunting, high altitude or high alpine, tree line, however you want to call it, what type of hunt that is.
Yeah, that's anymore. That's my preferred mode of hunting for sure. Again, there's a multitude of reasons why I prefer to. And being honest, I hate to say I'm a lazy guy, but I sure like sitting and glassing for miles and miles away to see what's out there. That definitely helps.
Yeah, it does.
Makes a difference.
Tell us about your first Alpine hunt.
My first hunt or my first successful hunt?
No, it doesn't. The first Alpine hunt.
Because there's about a 5-year difference there. So
we'll go with the first Alpine hunt.
Yeah. So I kind of got sucked into the whole high country era with David Long, Cam Haynes. Like that was probably 10 years ago. I kind of got sucked into that whole idea of things, and it started the research into where I could hunt in Colorado and find an easy tag. And I got very lucky and found some phenomenal units. So my first year of hunting, I actually went in with a buddy. We were actually both in nursing school, and we found some phenomenal deer, 160s to 200-inch mule deer. It just absolute tanks of a mule deer. And we went in the second weekend. Again, we were both in school, so we could only hunt weekends. So we hiked in. I want to say it was early Saturday morning. We hiked in the dark, got up to our glassing point right at sunrise, and within 5 minutes we spotted a pretty nice buck. We actually call him a tripod buck. He had a split between his G2 and G3, so he had a nice little tripod shape. And the funny thing is the weekend prior to that, my buddy that I was hunting with stalked a deer in this exact same bed, a different buck, but a deer exactly in the same bed. So we knew exactly what we needed to do right where the stalk needed to happen. And so we dropped our packs. My buddy set up and was giving me hand signals. And by mid-afternoon, I was right on top of this deer. And unfortunately, I don't have him on the wall due to rookie mistakes. That happens with everybody. But
so what happened? Come on, tell us the rest of the story.
I'll tell the full story. So about halfway into the stock, I knew I was at the elevation where I needed to drop down on top of this deer. And so I was doing what everyone said to do. So I pulled off my boots and I went in with my socks. And about halfway in on this stock, a massive rainstorm came in. I mean, crash, boom. Like I about got struck by lightning 3 different times, and I'm soaking wet. And this is a backpack style hunt. We were still planning on being back there for the next 2 nights. And so I was getting a little worried. So I backed out, went back to my backpack that I dropped about a quarter mile away. I threw up my spotting scope to look for my buddy. And he was giving me the hand signals that the deer is still there. So I pulled my wet socks off and I put my boots on without socks and proceeded on my stock. And gosh, the story gets so messy here. I end up tripping and falling in the mud. I bang up my bow. At the same time, I see one deer run away. So I thought all was done. And my buddy is still giving me the hand signal that keep moving. And so I continue on to right where I feel like I need to be. I had some pretty good landmarks picked out. There was a nice dead, like evergreen, like one of those small dwarf pines that was dead right on top of this cliff where this buck was bedded under. And I knew right where he was at. So I continued to follow this cliff band, take a step at a time, glass, step at a time, glass, just try to slow down as best as I could. And eventually I picked up nice antler tines right above the brush, above the willows. And I had this buck dead to rights, 37 yards, just perfect. Like I could see his head perfectly bedded down. I was ready to rock and roll, and I made the rookie mistake. He stood up, and I felt like I needed to shoot him right away. So as soon as he stood, I drew my bow back. My bottom limb hit a branch, and he looked right at me. And I thought we were prepared for about a 30-minute stare-off that normally happens. And luckily, he continued feeding. He fed about probably 4 to 5 steps closer to me. And in my rookie mistake, I didn't accommodate for those extra few steps, and I shot about 2 inches over his back. Just, talk about a heartbreaking experience. Oh, yeah, it was quite the experience. It was a big day because I then had to walk back to camp about 3 miles after I've already put in about 8 for that day. So it was quite the experience to say the least, but it hooked me from right there. It was on. So,
And, folks, if you haven't been there, that's okay. But sometime do yourself a favor and get up in the high country and experience that, because you long glass them. You might be a mile or two away. You have a partner, walking you in on top of it. But as you just found out from Tyler, stuff happens. Stuff happens to us all. I mean, you kick the wrong rock and it just rolls over and hits them in the head. I mean, that stuff happens. And you go, no, yeah, it happens. If it can happen, it will happen, because hunting to close the deal is really hard, especially in these conditions. So, so when the next hunt, was that with a muzzleloader then for the mule deer, or
no? So actually, after that, I kind of met up with actually I got introduced to this guy from my brother actually, and him and I have been hunting together now for about 4 or 5 years, and he had a bunch of points that he wanted to burn, and he knew I had a pretty good unit lined up, and so he burned his high country mule deer points for Colorado, and he shot an absolute stud of a deer with his rifle. That was probably 5, maybe even 6 years ago. So that was my first true successful hunt, and I wasn't even I was just there for the ride.
And sometimes when it was in August, September, with a rifle above 10,000 feet, right?
So that's always September. Yeah, every unit's a little different in Colorado.
Okay.
I think they fluctuate. Some of them are, again, it depends on the unit. Some are, I believe, are the week before muzzleloader season, and some are during muzzleloader season. So you're looking at the second to third week in September, typically, I believe.
And archery starts the 1st, September 1st?
Isn't the last weekend in August, I believe, is usually when archery season starts in Colorado?
Yeah, it's someplace in there. But what I'm trying to get at, it's just absolutely gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous weather, to be in the Rockies late August and September. The only caveat is at 12, 13, 14,000 feet. Storms do happen regularly every single weekend. I mean, every single day. And it could rain, sleet, hail, thunder, lightning, and you just have to be prepared for it. You got to be smart, because lightning can mess up your day pretty good.
It sure can.
So let's talk about elk hunting for a minute or two here. So, you killed them, down by the family ranch, but have you been archery hunting up, 10,000 feet, 8,000 feet?
I have. Gosh, I kind of feel embarrassed to even say this, but I've actually never even killed a bull elk. I've missed a lot of them, but I've actually never killed a bull elk. I've shot a lot of cows though.
They eat just the same, so
they eat better.
So let's talk about, do you go up in the high country, 8,000, 10,000 feet or above to hunt elk, or do you just wait till they come down to the farm or the ranch?
No, definitely hunt them up high. Actually, believe it or not, growing up, every Labor Day weekend, my stepdad would set up, we'd actually call it teepee camp. And it was just what it sounds like. He'd set up a big old Indian style teepee. And that he made this teepee back when he was late 20s, early 30s. Yeah. And so every Labor Day he'd set them up for about 2 weeks, and we'd hunt elk out of a teepee for that time frame. And it was incredible. It's always been a good time.
Now, you were hunting national forest then?
Yep. That was still against Southwestern Colorado. We no longer set up the teepees just because it's so much work, and the elk hunting is not near as good as it once was. But yeah, we still try to get out, but we just try to stay a little more mobile now at this point. So.
Now, have you been up close and personal to some bulls?
Oh yeah, definitely. My first time ever out with a bow. Believe it or not, I was out with my mom's bow. This is before I ever even owned my first like adult bow, I guess you could say, because I was right about 12. This is my first day ever out hunting elk with a bow with my stepdad, and we were about 10 minutes into our hike. My stepdad lets out a bugle, and immediately we get a response back at about 100 yards. And this small raghorn bull came up to me about 10 yards away. And at 12 years old, you can imagine my eyes. I swear I'd seen a ghost, you know. I wish I would have had a video camera on myself at that point in my life, because it was, oh man, it was an incredible experience to have at such a young age.
Well, yeah. So he looked at you, you looked at him, and he walked away, huh?
Oh yeah. The best part is, again, I was shooting my mom's bow at the time. I tried to draw the thing back, and I couldn't. It was a fiasco, to say the least. But oh yeah, it's pretty funny. But live and learn, you know. Just it was a good experience.
So what tips, 2 to 3, no more than 5 tips, would you give somebody from Iowa who wants to come out and hunt elk in Colorado archery season? And what would you tell them, you got to do?
Oh gosh. I guess number one would say make sure you have enough time. That's the hardest part. You know, especially if you're going archery, I would say try to take 2 weeks if you can. I know it's a lot of time, but I'm a firm believer that the more days of field that you can spend, the best chance you are going to. The more days of field that you can have, better chance you are at filling your tag. And then other than that, I would say be willing to work for it. You know, be willing to hike. If you're not here elk, keep moving until you find huntable elk. I think that's my best tip.
And that could be a few miles.
It could be, like I said, huntable elk could mean a lot of different things. Maybe you're hearing them, maybe you're smelling them, maybe you're seeing fresh sign, but it's kind of hard to hunt elk that you can't hear. That's the advantage of archery season. They're usually pretty noisy that time of year. So if you can find them, I'm a firm believer that you can at least hopefully have an opportunity.
Yeah, because the odds, I think, in the state of Colorado, 17% of everybody who buys a tag, an archery tag, kills a bull or a cow.
Yeah.
17%.
Those odds sound good to me, but
hey, let's take a break now and do our little gear talk. And what was the last piece of gear that you bought, and why'd you buy it, Tyler?
So my last piece of gear that I bought, honestly, was probably, I bought a lot of gear this past year, but I think the last piece I bought was actually a tripod mount for my binoculars, like a swivel style mount that mounts directly to my binos.
So if I understand you, you bought a swivel mount for your binoc, and you have a tripod that you mounted on?
That is correct, yeah.
Are they 15s or 10 bys?
You know, I'm rocking that 10 by 42s right now.
Yeah, because one thing I found, for what it's worth, Vortex, good people, the 15s, especially for sheep hunting, was, I use them more than my 10 by 42s.
Yeah, I do have a bino and a spotting scope as well, but I'll be honest anymore. I use my binoculars off of a tripod more than anything at this point. The field of view that you get, the clarity that you get, the lack of eye strain that you're not going to have with the binoculars as opposed to like a single piece binocular. To me, like I said, I'm running in the 10 by 42s, and they're nice. I would like to have a pair of 15 by 56s, but I'm not sure they're in the budget this year.
Well, you can always save up. That's
Uh,
for darn sure.
yeah.
Hey, thanks for that. And let's talk about your upcoming year hunting whitetails. You're in Nebraska. There's some great bucks there. You're near Kansas. There's some great bucks there. You need near Iowa. There's great bucks there. So you've got 3 states that you can hunt, and you got some really great opportunities. So talk to me about your plans for 2018.
Yeah, so it's kind of funny. You talk about all the good hunting opportunities that are out here, and I would agree. But I think I have a different play on things because you're probably thinking whitetails, aren't you?
Yes.
I'm thinking mule deer.
Well, in Kansas, western Nebraska, get some great mule deer,
as well as western South Dakota.
right?
So I'm hoping this year, my plans, I'm planning on, again, plans here. I'm hoping to pull a trifecta, which is Colorado mule deer, Nebraska mule deer, as well as South Dakota mule deer. So I'm hoping I can make that happen this year. There'd probably be a muzzleloader tag in Colorado, and then archery tags in South Dakota and Nebraska. So
Now, as I understand it, Nebraska, because I plan to hunt there DIY myself, you can get 2 tags, 2 buck tags. Is that correct?
that is absolutely correct. Yeah, Nebraska is definitely an opportunity state. So you can shoot 2 bucks and pretty much as many doe tags as you want. They are capped per each unit, but if you wanted to go in and buy 5 of them, you could buy 5 of them. They're not going to say no. You can shoot 2 bucks, and archery tags in the state are statewide, over the counter, and I believe muzzleloader is statewide over the counter as well. The only capped tags in the state would be if you're hunting mule deer down in a few of the conservation units. That would kind of be the south central to south west corner of Nebraska, or anything during the rifle hunts are typically, they're all over the counter, but they do have caps set on their units.
So what about whitetails? I didn't, you're excited about mule deer. How about, this is Whitetail Rendezvous. Because I need some scout. I need some people on the ground to find me some nice mature deer.
Fair enough. Yeah. So why do I hunt whitetails?
Yeah. Why are you going to spend more time hunting mule deer than whitetails?
Well, in all honesty, I'll do both. But if I have to take days away from work or my vacation days, I'm going to probably go elsewhere to hunt. The nice thing about where I live, I can be hunting whitetails literally within 20 to 30 minutes of my front door. So I'll do a lot of whitetail hunting during the week. Get off work early, sneak out to the stand, or just quick weekend hunts. I'll do a lot of whitetail hunting though. So I'll do both. But if I take any extended days away from work, I'll probably head a little further west and chase some whitetails, chase some mule deer. So
you're no help at all.
I know. I'm not. I'm still learning the ground around here. It's been tough because I'm just like you. I don't have access to anything private around here, so I'm hunting all public walk-in areas, and it gets hunted hard. This year was proof of it. I hunted a lot and didn't see a whole lot either. So
now, why do you think that is? Because there are deer there. I mean, there's no question the deer are there.
They are. I think a big part of it was I didn't start hunting out here in Nebraska until muzzleloader season. So that here in Nebraska, that's the entire month of December. So that's post rut, but that's also post rifle season as well. So I think they got hammered pretty good during rifle season.
Yeah, I would agree to that. One thing that I know, and I used to do when I lived in Wisconsin and then up in Montana, I could hunt basically, out of my front door or back door, whatever. So, I'd have one stand, and if I had 20 minutes, I'd go sit in that stand. And that's one thing that I learned. I'm trying to think of the guy that wrote the book. And that's what he did. He was a chiropractor from Montana. Forgive me, I can't remember his name, but he said that before he go to work, if he could get 20 minutes in a stand, because took 5 minutes in, 5 minutes out, and he's at the office in 10 minutes. And so, he would just do that to grab the opportunity, rather than just go to work, because he could. And the same thing coming home, he grabbed that 20, 30 minutes and get up and stand, wait. And, if you get one, you get one. And other than that, I always remember that, because it only takes a second. I think of all the times you've had deer come by, and all of a sudden they're not there, and then all of a sudden they are there, and you just have to be there at the right time.
Oh, that's the name of the game. You got to be there.
That's for sure. And, what would you suggest to people who are just starting out in hunting? That they're thinking about it and they're interested in hunting. They're interested in, maybe not hunting elk, but certainly mule deer. And mule deer, quite a few states have mule deer. And so you think of all that. What advice would you give to a person?
Just go. Honestly, just spend less money on gear and more money on tags, and just hopefully have the time away from work where you can just go. The deer are going to be there. It's just a matter of finding them. I'm a very positive person. Ask anyone I know. They sometimes get annoyed because I'm such a positive person, but I'm a firm believer that as long as you're there and you put in the effort, eventually the cards will all fall into order. And it may not be this year. It might be next year. It might be the year after that. But eventually what you're looking for is going to show up. So you just got to be there. And, yeah, I'm a gear junkie, so I'm guilty of it as well. But if you need to spend less money on gear and more money on tags, then do that. So,
and that is, wise information, because a lot of it, in hunting is showing up. And sometimes you have to climb a mountain to do that. Sometimes you have to ford a river. Sometimes you have to go through a swamp. I don't know what that is, but, when you pay that price, the opportunities, will present themselves, and we've all sit in this tree stand and swear there's not a buck around us for, miles. And all of a sudden you'll hear a grunt or a snort wheeze or a stomp or something. You go, oh my goodness, he was right behind me.
Yeah.
And that happens. That happens all the time.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Like, I've had that happen on numerous occasions. All hope is lost. And the next thing you know, before you can blink an eye, it's over. The buck steps out and the hunt's over.
Right. So let's wrap it up on behalf of Whitetail Rendezvous and thousands of listeners across North America. This has been really fun, Tyler, and thank you so much for being a guest. And I can't wait till we do it next time.
Yeah, thanks, Bruce. Thanks for having me. It's been a pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
Hey, we're staying right here in Colorado for the next episode. Hesperus, Colorado to be exact, and that's a little west of Durango. And we're going to connect with Mr. Wilderness Attitude. And what's this all about? Well, Brandon Waddell's been through some stuff. He's got some stories, and he's got some tips, techniques that if you ever hunt out west, sure as heck make you a better hunter. He's also shot some whitetails out in Kansas. His son just got a wonderful 160 class whitetail for his first whitetail ever. Great story behind that. So a lot of great stories coming up, and I think you'll like the show, basically because we talk about a lot of different things that are important to all of us, men and women combined, about how to live a wilderness life.
Thanks for joining us. Be sure to tune in tomorrow for another episode of Whitetail Rendezvous, where you can listen and learn from the experts so you can be more successful on your next hunt. Until next time, listen, learn, and succeed.